We begin with Yu Jong-san, who looks like he's contemplating life's biggest mysteries. Or maybe just his bank account. Why? He asks, confused. Probably wondering if he made the right choice by not investing in something that wasn't going down the drain. Owner Kong, visibly annoyed, responds, "Don't look at me with that face. I know what I'm doing is foolish." Ah, the classic, "I know it's dumb, but I'm doing it anyway" face. We all have that moment, like ordering fast food when we promise to start eating healthier. Yu Jong-san waves his hands like he's swatting away the frustration and maybe some bad ideas before asking again, "Then why?" "Look here, Owner Kong," he says, ready to drop some hometown pride as if he's about to sing his school anthem at a reunion. Owner Kong's face goes blank, probably thinking, "Oh no, not another hometown story. Save me." "You aren't from Hua. Jong-san declares with the confidence of someone about to drop some serious emotional baggage. Owner Kong's mind probably screams, "Here we go." Jong-san continues, like an old man reminiscing about the good old days when everything was better. "Mount Hua means something to us, Hua natives. My father, my grandfather, all the way back to my great-great-grandpappy, they grew up idolizing Mount Hua." Owner Kong tilts his head, likely thinking, "And do I look like your grandpappy?" Yu Jong-san is undeterred. "Mount Hua was like our superhero. You don't just throw away your superhero, even if you can't be a superhero yourself." Which, let's be honest, none of us could. Well, at least the man's got some self-awareness. That's more than we can say for most people. He scratches his head, clearly thinking, "How do I explain this in a way that doesn't make me sound crazy?" Then, with the passion of a man who's had one too many beers, Jong-san says, "But what does it make me if I destroy Mount Hua for money? When I die, my father will haunt me and beat my ghostly ass for eternity. I'm not going out like that." A low chuckle echoes in the room, like someone just realized, this guy's dead serious. Owner Kong looks over, catching someone mid-laugh. And suddenly the room turns to awkward silence, like when your boss overhears your joke about quitting your job. "So, for these feelings, you're giving up a fortune?" Kong asks, the disbelief thick in his voice. It's like watching someone turn down the winning lottery ticket because it feels wrong. Yu Jong-san spits on the floor. "I could take that money, move to Hangzhou, and live like a king. But honestly, I'm too old for that. Where am I going to spend all that cash? At a tavern? Getting drunk all the time? That's fun for maybe a week." Ah, the bitter realization that adulthood is just realizing how boring endless parties would actually be. He smiles, despite the situation. "Maybe I've gone mad," he admits, looking like a guy who's just realized he bought non-refundable tickets to Crazy Town. "But I'm not destroying Mount Hua with my own hands." Owner Kong, clearly confused, tries to understand what's going on. Is this guy really saying no to a fortune because of feelings? He looks at Jong-san, who's breathing hard like he just finished a workout after an emotional roller coaster. Someone get this man a towel. "You're going to regret this," Owner Kong says, half laughing at the absurdity. Jong-san shouts, "Of course I'll regret it, but it'll feel worse to destroy Mount Hua." The man's a walking contradiction, like someone eating cake while saying they're on a diet. Just as Kong is ready to wrap this up, thinking Jong-san is a lost cause, a voice calls out from behind. Who said he was alone? Plot twist. Owner Kong turns around like he's in a soap opera. "Owner Seo?" Kong exclaims like he's just spotted his ex at a party. Seo Min-jong strolls up, cool as a cucumber, and stands next to Jong-san. Kong frowns, realizing things just went from "this guy's crazy" to "oh no, this might be serious." And like some weird domino effect, a few more merchants join them. It's like a bad flash mob where instead of dancing, they're all standing together in a terrible financial decision. Owner Kong shakes his head in disbelief. "Oh my God," he mutters, probably wondering, how did this turn into a motivational support group? But while Kong's mind is spinning, Hunjong, the sect leader, steps in with a level of cool that could put James Bond to shame. "Unam," he calls out, with the authority of a man about to drop the ultimate trump card. "Yes, sect leader." Unam responds, like a soldier ready to deliver something big. Hunjong then announces the arrival of the box. Cue dramatic music. Everyone's eyes are glued to it, and Kong approaches, like he's about to open Pandora's box, only to find books. Kong blinks. "Books? What kind of prank is this?" Hunjong smiles. "Would I do that? Well, let's just say Hunjong's got jokes." These are ledgers, Hyunjong explains, voice as calm as ever. And they prove that Mount Hua owns everything you've been running. Kong's jaw drops. Oh no, this was not the plot twist he wanted. Hyunjong finishes with a final verbal uppercut. Mount Hua will confiscate everything you've earned under our name. It's like a bolt of lightning just struck the merchants. Their dreams of fortune crushed, just like that. And that, folks, is how you turn the tables in the most dramatic fashion possible, by showing receipts. Kong Moonyoung, standing there, looks like someone just told him his credit card's been declined in front of a hot date. His confidence falters as he stares at the ledgers like they're ancient texts from another dimension. His brain's working overtime, trying to process what just happened. Did I just get legally pantsed? The other merchants, realizing they're holding the same documents, start flipping through the ledgers. You can see the stages of grief passing through their expressions: denial, anger, bargaining, but most of all, pure, unfiltered panic. This can't be right, mutters one merchant, his voice trailing off as he quickly realizes that, yep, it's very right. Hyunjong is just standing there, watching the confusion unfold with a small, serene smile, the kind of look that says, "Gotcha, suckers!" Owner Kong, trying to regain control of the situation, sputters, "This? You can't possibly think this will stand, sect leader." His voice cracks slightly, as if even he doesn't believe what he's saying. Hyunjong, still calm, replies, "Silence!" Oof, Kong just got dad-voiced. The room falls quiet, and Hyunjong continues, "Mount Hua has been more than generous to all of you, but you repay us by trying to gut us like some back-alley thugs?" His voice gets sharper, cutting through the silence. "No matter how benevolent we've been, we will not allow traitors to profit off our kindness." Damn, someone cue the slow clap. This is the kind of speech that ends wars or starts them. He doesn't stop there. Oh no, he goes for the jugular. Based on these ledgers, Mount Hua will now confiscate not only the businesses, but all the wealth you've amassed using our name. The merchants' faces collectively drain of color. You can almost hear the sound of their life savings being vacuumed into a void. One merchant, probably the one who fancied himself clever up until 5 minutes ago, blurts out, "Wait, this has to be a mistake." Hyunjong doesn't even flinch. A mistake? The only mistake was thinking you could steal from Mount Hua and get away with it. Boom. Roasted. At this point, the merchants are looking around for some way out, but the doors might as well be locked. They're trapped, both physically and financially, and there's no escape from the whirlwind of bad choices they've just been caught up in. Kong, desperately trying to salvage whatever pride he has left, stammers, "Sect leader, this isn't fair. We were just doing business. You can't expect us to lose everything." Ah, the classic appeal to fairness. Right up there with, "It's not what it looks like." Hyunjong's gaze softens just a bit, but his voice remains firm. "Fair? You think this is about fairness? Mount Hua has given you everything, our name, our reputation, and this is how you repay us?" Kong looks like he's about to pass out from the stress. And honestly, I wouldn't blame him. The man is sweating buckets at this point. The other merchants start whispering amongst themselves, probably planning their escape routes, or at least trying to figure out how they're going to explain this to their wives. But Hyunjong isn't done yet. This is not just about business. This is about loyalty, honor, things you apparently don't understand. Oof, that's gonna sting. Owner Kong finally snaps, throwing his hands in the air. "Fine, take it, take all of it, but I guarantee this, Mount Hua won't survive long enough to use it." Ah yes, the classic, "if I'm going down, I'm taking you with me" strategy. But Hyunjong doesn't even blink. Mount Hua has stood for centuries, and we will continue to stand long after people like you have been forgotten. With that, Hyunjong turns on his heel and walks away, leaving the merchants standing there like a group of kids who've just been grounded for life. As the tension in the room dissipates, the merchants begin shuffling out, muttering amongst themselves, their dreams of easy money shattered. You can almost hear the collective groan of financial ruin echoing through the halls. And as for Owner Kong, he's left standing there alone, realizing that not only has he lost everything, but he's also just been absolutely schooled by a guy in robes. And so, the saga ends with the merchants losing their fortune and Mount Hua standing tall, proving once again that sometimes the best way to win a fight is to show the receipts. All right, let's dive into this. Episode 32, You Bastard? Are You from the Southern Edge Sect? Part 2. The room fell into a deafening silence. It wasn't your typical, oops, did I leave the stove on silence. No, this was the kind where you're pretty sure something monumental just happened, and you're frozen, wondering if it's too late to sneak out the back. Hyun-jong, the leader of Mount Hua, had just dropped a bomb. Not an actual bomb, of course. If that were the case, the story would be over right here and now, but the metaphorical kind that leaves people wide-eyed and slack-jawed. The merchants, sensing they might be utterly screwed, turned beet red and stammered like they'd been caught in bed with someone's spouse. Sect leader, one yelled. What are you saying? Another shrieked, barely managing to hold their voice together. And yet, Hyunjong remained as icy as a popsicle in a snowstorm. His calm, cold expression spoke volumes. This wasn't the Hyunjong they knew. This was Hyunjong, stone-cold badass edition. It is as I said, he replied, his voice smooth and chilly, like a glass of whiskey over ice. But, the merchants continued to blubber, no longer just red, but nearly purple from the sheer effort of screaming in disbelief. They probably looked like overripe tomatoes about to burst. Hyunjong, still as unshaken as a monk in deep meditation. And then, as if the tension wasn't high enough, Owner Kong, that sneaky little bastard, decided to step in. Silence, he shouted, his voice cold enough to freeze hell over. Instantly, the merchants shut their mouths, realizing they'd just been shut down like a bad karaoke performance. Kong Munyun, the owner, and Hunjong locked eyes, and I swear you could feel the air crackling with electricity. No, not the kind from a science experiment gone wrong. This was the kind where you expect someone to get roasted, metaphorically speaking. Hyunjong broke the silence. Tell me, Owner Kong. Oh, here it comes. We've reached the part of the showdown where both sides start flexing their verbal muscles. Kong, who normally would be confident and snarky, seemed a little, how do we say it, constipated. Yeah, like he had a sudden realization that this wasn't going to end well for him. This joke has gone too far. Kong tried to laugh it off. Ha ha, right? Except Hyunjong wasn't laughing. Oh no. Hyunjong was not a man for jokes today. A joke, you say? Hyunjong replied, raising one eyebrow. That eyebrow probably said more than words ever could. I am sorry, but the sect leader of Mount Hua doesn't joke. Cue, mic drop. Owner Kong, though, tried to salvage what was left of his pride, was smirking like a sleazy used car salesman who knows the transmission is faulty but will sell you the car anyway. Isn't that only if the ledger is legitimate? He sneered. Now, Hunjong didn't take that well. His eyes narrowed, and if looks could kill, let's just say Kong would have been a pile of ash on the floor. Are you suggesting Mount Hua would fake these documents? He asked, in a tone that would make even the bravest person rethink their life choices. Kong, ever the weasel, took a step back. Oh, of course not, but perhaps someone deceived Mount Hua, you know? Maybe these aren't real. Kong's desperation was showing, and it wasn't pretty. The merchants, like a chorus of parrots, chimed in. Right, that's common sense. Hyunjong stayed cool, glancing at his finance head, Hunyoung. What do you think? He asked. Hyunyoung, not even batting an eye, replied, they do have a point. That small moment of hope in the merchants' eyes was priceless. For just a second, they thought they might get out of this mess. Oh, sweet summer children. Then Hyunyoung dropped the hammer. That's why half of the books were already sent to the officials in Hua for verification. Cue dramatic pause. Owner Kong's eyes practically bugged out of his head. You did what? It was in that exact moment that Owner Kong probably realized he was more screwed than a rusty nail in a hurricane. He tried to recover, but the sweat dripping down his back told the whole story. Mount Hua had outplayed him, and it wasn't just any play. It was like watching a chess grandmaster toy with an overconfident beginner. Hyunjong didn't even try to hide his satisfaction. This wasn't just some lucky break. No, Hyunjong had this entire thing planned from the start. Owner Kong was just another player in his game. When Kong, grasping at straws, growled about how he wouldn't forget this, Hyunjong replied, call it a poisoned heart if you want, but I pale in comparison to you. Translation, if you think I'm bad, you should really look in the mirror, you treacherous twit. As Owner Kong stormed out, trying to preserve what little dignity he had left, Chung Myung, our favorite little chaos gremlin, watched from a distance. And let's just say, He was not pleased. "What the hell do you mean by one cart?" Chung Myung shouted, wide-eyed in disbelief. Hyunjong might have sent the merchants away, but Chung Myung wasn't about to let them go without a proper ass-whooping. That, my friend, is how you do business, Mount Hua style. All with a smile, but behind it, well, let's just say, don't cross them unless you like being metaphorically or literally flattened. The merchants hurried down the mountain, leaving behind any shred of dignity they had left. Hyunjong, meanwhile, sighed, watching their retreating forms with an air of exhaustion. Sect leader, you worked hard. Hyunyoung beamed, looking like he'd just finished a marathon and was already planning his victory lap. Hyunjong, always the one to remind others not to celebrate too early, simply gave a tired smile. Now, Mount Hua is finally free. It is good. Don't get too comfortable, Hyunyoung warned. We've only crossed one mountain. Clearly, the finance head wasn't about to start popping champagne. He knew this was just the beginning, and the world didn't exactly hand out participation trophies. Hyunjong, however, couldn't help but let some optimism slip through. Will there be a greater mountain than this? He asked, smiling brightly as if he'd just conquered the world. Now everything is set. For the first time in what felt like forever, Mount Hua had a reason to smile. Hyunyoung, who had been as stoic as a statue for most of his life, was practically beaming with pride. He knew all too well that this victory was hard-won. All thanks to that child, Hyunjong thought. His mind drifted to the one person who had made all this possible, Chung Myung. But how do you reward someone like Chung Myung? A kid who's as likely to cause mayhem as he is to save the day? Hyunjong chuckled to himself, thinking of what kind of reward would actually satisfy that little demon. Turning his attention to Yu Jong-san and the other merchants who had stayed loyal to Mount Hua, Hyunjong's expression softened. These men had stayed true to the sect even when things were at their worst. And you, Hyunjong began, his voice much gentler now. The merchants immediately bowed, their loyalty showing in every motion. Sect leader, what will happen to us? Yu Jong-san asked hesitantly. Hyunjong's face remained calm. It doesn't change that your businesses belong to Mount Hua. What belongs to Mount Hua must be returned, but you will continue to handle them and receive compensation. Relief washed over Yu Jong-san's face, but it was clear that this new arrangement wasn't ideal. They were no longer the owners, merely managers now. It wasn't exactly a sweet deal, but it sure beat being thrown out like yesterday's trash. Before he could protest further, Hyunyoung stepped in like the cold voice of reality. Excessive greed leads to downfall, he said bluntly, his words landing like a slap in the face. It's also a sin to try and oppress others with a business that isn't yours. Mount Hua is giving you a chance to redeem yourselves. Yu Jong-san winced but nodded. There was nothing left to say. He knew all too well that this was more than fair, considering the circumstances. The merchants had brought this upon themselves through their greed and deceit. Grandfather. Yu Jong-san muttered under his breath, cursing the decisions of his ancestors. This wasn't just his downfall. It was a legacy of poor choices passed down through generations. Hyunjong, ever the wise leader, wasn't completely heartless, though. Finance head, he called. Yes, sect leader. They may have sinned, but in the end, they didn't betray Mount Hua. They helped us at the crucial moment. Let's find a way to make this work for them. Mount Hua should always be a warm place for its friends. Yes, sect leader, Hyunyoung responded, stepping forward to guide the merchants inside for further discussions. The group followed, a mix of emotions swirling within them. They had lost their businesses, their sense of ownership. But in a way, they had also found redemption, a path forward, however uncertain. As they moved, Hyunjong remained behind, watching Mount Hua in the distance. Every day, the sect had been a place of struggle, of survival. But today, something felt different. The once faded buildings now seemed alive, vibrant even. It was as if Mount Hua had shed its old skin and was preparing for something greater. Does the world change based on how we feel inside? Hyunjong mused. Maybe, just maybe, everything that had happened wasn't merely chance. Perhaps it was fate. Mount Hua had weathered decades of hardship, but now, for the first time in years, it had a future. A future that seemed bright. Hyunjong smiled, a deep, satisfied smile. Mount Hua was no longer on the edge of collapse. This was the beginning of its rebirth, a return to its former glory. And just as he was savoring this moment of peace, from somewhere in the distance, an angry voice shattered the serenity. That fucking bastard! Chung Myung's face had twisted into an expression of pure rage. What the hell do you mean by a cartload? One cartload? Are you out of your mind? What about the other 100? I'll show you what a real beast is. Hyunjong may have sent the merchants away, but Chung Myung had no intention of letting them off that easily. All right, folks, buckle up because episode 33 of Return of Mount Hua Sect is about to take you on a wild ride with some questionable decisions and a sprinkle of chaos as usual. Sahyung! Great Sahyung! Jogul came in like a man on a mission, barely containing his excitement. You know, the kind of excitement that could either be good news or a sign of utter disaster. Yunjong, ever the chill guy, looked up from whatever sage-like thing he was doing, probably meditating or contemplating the meaning of life. Who knows? What is it? Did you hear? Hear what? Jogul grinned like he was about to spill the hottest tea in all of Mount Hua. The rumors, of course. You know, the ones spreading faster than a wildfire. Yunjong raised an eyebrow, a smirk forming. I have ears. I hear everything. You gotta love how Yunjong keeps it cool like nothing phases him. Dude's probably the one guy who'd be calm if the world was ending. Joe Gul's excitement wasn't dying down anytime soon, though. Well, the merchants of Hua those guys who owed Mount Hua, turns out their businesses belonged to Mount Hua all along. And now, the officials are confiscating everything. It's chaos, man. Yunjong shrugged, looking like this was just another Tuesday. I heard about that. Cue Jogul beating his chest, trying to get a reaction. Oh my God! Why are you so calm? This is huge. Do you know how much money we're talking about? Enough to not worry about our finances for generations. Yunjong blinked, not convinced. So? At this point, Jogul is practically losing his mind. Sahyung, we'll be loaded. Imagine running Mount Hua without financial stress. You could even afford fancy tea with honey. And we all know honey doesn't come cheap. Fast forward, and the plot thickens. Jogul and Yunjong exchange knowing looks as they put two and two together. The ledgers that suddenly appeared? Yeah, they definitely weren't just lying around for 100 years without someone hiding them. Also, Chung Myung's performance when finding them? I've seen better acting in kids' school plays. Jogul muttered, I really want to believe this is all a coincidence. Yunjong, exasperated, closed his eyes. If you're going to deceive someone, at least act properly. Even a toddler could do better. Meanwhile, outside, the merchants were having a full-on existential crisis. Imagine being rich 1 minute and then losing everything because the officials rolled up with a scroll that says, actually, this is ours. Yao? Yep, that's what happened to them. Now, here's where it gets juicy. Kong Munyoung, the man supposedly in charge, tried to rally his troops. We can't just sit back and take this. We're going to Luoyang, and when we get there, we'll show Mount Hua what real power looks like. Munyoung might as well have said, don't worry guys, I've got a plan. But we all know what that really means. Things are about to go south. Suddenly, as if the universe wanted to spice things up even more, an unfamiliar voice cut through the chaos like a knife through butter. What bullshit. And just like that, you know it's about to go down. All right, folks, that's the lowdown on episode 33. We've got missing ledgers, suspicious behavior, and Chung Myung doing, well, Chung Myung things. Will the merchants bounce back? Will Mount Hua finally secure its future? And who just called out Kong Munyoung's nonsense? Stick around for the next episode, where things get even messier. Sure thing. Let's continue the story from where we left off. What bullshit. Oh boy. When someone starts like that, you know it's not going to be a friendly chat. All heads snap toward the source of the voice, and standing there was none other than, you guessed it, Chung Myung. Of course, he showed up right on cue, like a chaos-loving gremlin ready to stir the pot. Kong Munyoung blinked, confused. Who are you? Now let's be real for a second. The man might not recognize him, but we all know who's about to make a scene. It's our favorite little troublemaker from Mount Hua. I'm from Mount Hua Sect, and I've come to clean up the mess. Chung Myung spoke casually, as if he wasn't about to wreck everyone's day. Kong Munyoung's brow twitched. You're from Mount Hua? Chung Myung grinned, eyes narrowing dangerously. You're not deaf, are you? I just said that. Oh, yeah, the sass level just hit new heights. You know it's bad when even the merchants took a step back, sensing the storm coming. The next moment, Kong Mun tried to puff out his chest, putting on his best tough guy act. He barked, "Do you think you can intimidate us, kid? This isn't a playground." Chung Myung, however, didn't even blink. Instead, he walked right up to Kong, invading his personal space like he owned the place. Intimidate? Oh no, I'm here to make sure you don't run away like the rats you are. Ouch. The entire group went silent, jaws hanging open. This guy wasn't holding back any punches. Meanwhile, Kong Mun looked like he was about to explode. He wasn't used to being talked to like this, and Chung Myung wasn't about to stop. You see, you're all really bad at this scamming thing. You took Mount Hua's property, you got caught, and now you want to run off to Luoyang? You think that'll fix things? Chung Myung's grin widened. Adorable. If you think Kong Mun was going to take this lying down, you've clearly underestimated his ego. The man growled, trying to muster every ounce of authority he had left. You little bastard, do you know who you're dealing with? Oh boy, here we go with the "do you know who I am" line. It's like watching a bad villain from a second-rate drama. Chung Myung just tilted his head, looking at Kong like he was the dumbest man alive. Yeah, I know exactly who you are. You're the guy who's about to get his ass kicked. Without another word, Chung Myung's fist flew faster than anyone could react. 1 second, Kong Mun was standing there, puffed up like a peacock, and the next, he was crumpled on the ground, clutching his stomach like he'd been hit by a boulder. Ah! He groaned, trying to catch his breath, his confidence shattered. The merchants just stared, wide-eyed, too shocked to even process what had just happened. It was like they had all collectively realized they were dealing with a ticking time bomb, and the fuse had just been lit. Chung Myung dusted off his hands, completely unfazed by the carnage. You should have known better than to mess with Mount Hua. If this were a game, there'd definitely be a mission accomplished banner flashing right about now. As the merchants scrambled, trying to figure out what to do next, Chung Myung stretched like he was warming up for round 2. So, who's next? Anyone else got any bright ideas? The group flinched. Not a single soul was brave enough to step forward. After watching their fearless leader get folded like a cheap deck chair, the last thing they wanted was to be on the receiving end of that. Chung Myung smirked, satisfied. Good. Looks like we're all on the same page then. Now, how about you all pack up and disappear before I change my mind? And just like that, the merchants knew the jig was up. They might have had big dreams of Luoyang and revenge, but after that display, they'd be lucky to get out of this with their dignity intact, if they even had any left. Kong Mun was barely holding it together, still curled up in pain, but he wasn't going to argue. Not with Chung Myung standing over him, looking like he might finish the job. With that, the merchants dragged their carts away, tails between their legs. What all their big talk about revenge dissolving faster than ice in summer. Meanwhile, Chung Myung watched them go, cracking his knuckles and already thinking about what kind of booze he'd drink once this nonsense was over. The end of episode 33. Well, folks, there you have it. Another day in the life of Mount Hua, where Chung Myung has once again proven that no situation is too complicated when you've got a punch that hits harder than your problems. Will the merchants make a comeback? Will Chung Myung find more treasure buried in suspiciously convenient places? Stay tuned for the next episode. Final thoughts. Chung Myung doesn't just talk the talk. He punches the punch. Bastard! Are you from the Southern Edge sect? The masked man barely whispered, his voice strained and coughing like someone who'd chain-smoked their whole life. Not exactly a classic entrance for a hero, or in this case, a broke burglar. Kong Mun, our poor, confused businessman, stood there. He hadn't even heard the man approach. His eyes went wide, heart thumping as he stared at the figure in front of him. Black cloth clung to his body, almost like he'd been wrapped in a discount ninja costume from a Halloween store. Who is this joker, he thought, completely thrown off. I mean, come on, the guy's out here in broad daylight. Was this dude's life so bad he had to resort to robbing people at noon? What did you just say? Kong Mun asked, struggling to process what was happening. The masked man waved him off. coughing again like he just ate a pepper raw. I said, "Cough! Cough! Cough! Bullshit. Is this guy dying, or is he just that bad at this?" Kong Mun stared, wondering if this old man was about to keel over before even getting to the robbery part. The man's body looked like a half-deflated balloon, and his voice had the energy of someone who's been doing yoga for 70 years and still somehow lost all flexibility. He had that ancient, I've seen things look in his eyes, but honestly, he might have just been constipated. "What business does he have here?" one of the bystanders muttered. The old burglar shook his head. "Shit, I'm gonna die before I can even finish this conversation." Yup, definitely old, Kong Mun thought, eyes blank. The scene in front of him felt more like a nursing home field trip than an actual threat. This guy looked like he needed a nap more than money. "Look, old man, why don't you just go home, take your meds, and watch the sunset?" Kong Mun tried to shoo him off, like someone telling their drunk uncle to just sit down before he hurts himself at the family barbecue. "Oh, jackpot," the masked man muttered, eyes wild. Was he seeing things now? "What the hell are you talking about?" Kong Mun asked, clearly regretting not skipping breakfast. The day was getting weirder by the second. Then the man tapped his waist like he was trying to wake himself up, before dramatically pointing his sword at Kong Mun. "I'm not here to steal. I'm here to reclaim my property." "Oh, so now we're going with a rightful owner plot, huh? Classic. You literally just said you were a robber." "Did I? Ah, well, that's just the cough talking. Happens to the best of us." This has to be a prank, Kong Mun thought, looking around for hidden cameras. Or maybe this was some sort of really dark street performance? But before he could spiral too deep, the masked man pointed his sword at him again. "Do you want to try me, son?" Oh no, here we go. The business tycoon persona dropped, and suddenly Kong Mun was all in. "Are you serious right now?" he barked, stepping forward, chest puffed out like he was about to start a WWE match. But before any more threats could be thrown, the masked man coolly interrupted. "Are you from Mount Hua?" Boom. Plot twist. A murmur rippled through the other merchants like the guy had just dropped a spoiler for their favorite TV show. Mount Hua? No one saw that coming. But instead of explaining, the masked man casually adjusted his grip on the sword. "The talks with Mount Hua are done, but the talks with me aren't over yet," he said like he was the one holding up the meeting notes. Kong Mun blinked, utterly confused. "Did your sect leader send you?" The old man scoffed. "Do I look like the kind of guy who follows orders from a kid?" Kid? That's when it hit. The guy in front of them had been around since before Mount Hua's leader even hit puberty. Talk about a senior citizen discount. But damn, if Kong Mun wasn't slightly impressed. Maybe I should start respecting my elders more, or not. But the situation wasn't improving. In fact, it was getting weirder. Kong Mun finally snapped. "I didn't realize Mount Hua would send such a petty old man." "Oh, you think I'm petty?" the masked man cackled, nearly coughing up a lung again. "You're out here trying to rob us, and you're calling me petty? Your senior would be ashamed." His voice dropped, full of condescending wisdom, like your mom reminding you of all the stupid things you did as a teenager. "Senior?" Kong Mun muttered, squinting as if to read the subtext in this conversation. It was clear now. This wasn't just any random old dude. This guy had history. Ancient history. The masked man's voice sharpened. "Leave your carts and get the hell out of here. Trust me, if I wasn't trying to be nice for once, I'd be breaking your bones right now." Suddenly, Kong Mun felt a pang of sympathy for Mount Hua. Maybe the sect leader was a saint for letting this man loose with a sword. But sympathy wasn't going to save him now. "Old man," Kong Mun smirked, "you really think I'm just going to walk away?" "Yes." "What?" He didn't even have time to process that when the masked man doubled over, hacking up what sounded like a 50-year-old phlegm ball. "Ah, cough! Ah, spit! Oh man, I'm really not feeling good." Damn it, why do I feel bad for this guy now? Kong Mun thought, his eyes softening. "Look, we don't want to cause you any trouble. You clearly need a doctor or a bed or something. Just take it easy, all right?" But the masked man stood upright again, eyes gleaming. "The old man's already dead. You're talking to a kid now," he said. And then he cracked his knuckles. The air shifted, and suddenly shit got real. Swords flashed. Guards dropped like flies, and our poor businessman was left standing there, jaw open. 5 of his best escorts were on the ground before anyone knew what hit them. Chung Myung casually slung his sword over his shoulder, looking like a college student who just finished a part-time shift and didn't give a damn about anything. You guys talk way too much. Back in my day, we just beat the crap out of each other and call it a day. Kong Moon-young, his legs trembling, finally realized Mount Hua wasn't dead, and this old man wasn't leaving without his property. And that's when the real battle began. Kong Moon-young, still in shock, finally regained his voice. Old man, if you'd come out earlier, Mount Hua wouldn't be in the state it is now. Chung Myung, ever so nonchalant, raised an eyebrow. Oh, so you do know how to speak without tripping over your own tongue. Impressive. He stretched his arms lazily, the sword still balanced over his shoulder. But you've picked the wrong time to talk. If you're thinking I came out of retirement just to listen to your complaints, you're in for a surprise. I was hoping for a nap today. Kong Moon-young's expression darkened. You're going to regret not taking me seriously, you old fart. You have no idea what you're up against. And with that, he gathered his energy, the very ground beneath his feet trembling as the grass began to ripple and tear apart under the force of his chi. It wasn't some cheap parlor trick either. This was real, high-level martial arts energy, and the merchants nearby stumbled back, eyes wide with fear. If this was his true strength, Kong Moon-young had been hiding it well. Ah, so you do have some power after all, Chung Myung said, his tone almost pleased. That makes things a bit more interesting. The old man straightened up, the apparent frailty in his body gone, replaced by a lethal calm that could send shivers down anyone's spine. His sword gleamed under the sun, and for a second, it wasn't a weak, wheezing man who stood before Kong Moon-young. It was a master. Well then, since you're so eager to show off, why don't we see who's really got the bigger sword here, shall we? Kong Moon-young, adrenaline pumping, launched himself forward, his energy flaring like an explosion. The ground itself seemed to warp around him as he charged toward Chung Myung. The air buzzed with tension, thick enough to cut with a blade. But then, in an almost anticlimactic fashion, Chung Myung simply sighed. I told you. I'm too old for this. With a flick of his wrist, his sword swung upward, cutting through the air like it was nothing, meeting Kong Moon-young's attack with ease. Their blades collided with a deafening clang, sparks flying. But Kong Moon-young's overwhelming energy seemed to dissolve the moment it made contact with Chung Myung's sword. Kong Moon-young's eyes widened in disbelief. What? Before he could finish, Chung Myung's sword was already at his throat, the cold steel pressing lightly against his skin. Still think you're the big man around here? Kong Moon-young stood frozen, unable to move, a bead of sweat rolling down his temple. How? How had this frail old man moved so fast? Chung Myung leaned in closer, a wicked grin on his face. I'll give you credit. You've got guts. But here's the thing. It's not the size of the fight in the man. It's the experience that counts. And trust me, I've got more experience than you've got bad decisions. With a final, effortless shove, Chung Myung pushed Kong Moon-young back, sending him stumbling. But he wasn't finished. You wanted to deliver a blow to Mount Hua, huh? Well, I'm afraid your delivery's been rejected. Return to sender. Chung Myung's eyes gleamed with a dangerous light, and before Kong Moon-young could even react, the sword came down once again, not to kill, but to knock the man's weapon out of his hand entirely. With a single precise move, the fight was over. Kong Moon-young dropped to the ground, panting and humiliated. His hands shook as he stared up at Chung Myung, who was now casually inspecting his nails like he hadn't just destroyed the man's pride. I can't believe it, Kong Moon-young muttered, his voice hoarse. You? How? Chung Myung shook his head, a pitying expression on his face. You should have taken my advice and walked away. But hey, it's not too late. If you leave now, I'll even let you keep your dignity. Well, whatever's left of it anyway. Kong Moon-young, still on his knees, clenched his fists in anger. This isn't over. Oh, but it is. Chung Myung sheathed his sword, turning away like the whole ordeal had been nothing but a minor inconvenience. Go back to your little hideout, lick your wounds, and try not to get in over your head next time. Trust me, you don't want to test my patience again. The air was thick with silence as Kong Moon-young struggled to his feet, his eyes burning with humiliation, but also with a newfound respect for the masked man. He had been completely outclassed, and he knew it. But as he limped away, defeated, Chung Myung couldn't resist one last jab. And hey, next time you pick a fight, make sure it's not with someone who's already mastered the art of kicking ass and taking names. And with that, Chung Myung walked away, whistling, leaving Kong Moon-young and his men behind in a haze of defeat and confusion. Kids these days, Chung Myung muttered to himself. They just don't know when to quit. Episode 35, You Bastard? Are you from the Southern Edge Sect? 5. Welcome to the thrilling episode of Martial Arts Mayhem, where our underdog Kong Moon-young is about to learn the harsh lesson that even the most powerful fists can't hit a ghost. The scene opens with Kong Moon-young, our half-baked warrior who thinks he's all that, facing off against our masked man who, in contrast to his fancy attire, seems to have a knack for showing off while hardly breaking a sweat. This isn't just any fight, it's a masterclass in how to dodge and taunt. Kong Moon-young, all fired up, throws a punch. But what's this? His punch gets blocked not by another fist, but by a sword. Not just any sword, mind you, but one that seems to have a personal vendetta against his moves. Kong Moon-young's frustration is palpable, and his attacks are getting more desperate. But every time he thinks he's landed a blow, the masked man just evaporates like mist. "You're too slow," comes the taunting voice from behind. Kong Moon-young spins around, unleashing a powerful backhand swing, only for his opponent to block it with what appears to be the finesse of a ballet dancer avoiding a puddle. It's like trying to hit a shadow that knows exactly where you're going to strike before you do. Kong Moon-young's strength, now flowing from his dantian like a river in flood, gets smothered by the masked man's effortless, precise evasion. The man isn't fast. He's not strong. He's just perfectly in the right place to make Kong Moon-young look like a bumbling fool. And speaking of foolish, the masked man seems to be making this a show of how to dodge 101, bending over and gasping theatrically as if he's exhausted from the ballet of avoidance he's performing. Kong Moon-young, still trying to make contact, feels like he's fighting a ghost, a very well-dressed ghost who's having a laugh at his expense. Why was someone like you never on the front line? Kong Moon-young demands, his patience wearing thin. Chung Myung, our masked maestro of mockery, just shrugs it off. You don't need to know, he says. Those who think only of themselves live in a strange illusion. Why should I have to answer any of your questions? Kong Moon-young's face is a study in frustration, each attempt at a strike more futile than the last. Chung Myung, still casually dodging and mocking, continues. I'm the one who will ask the questions. For a simple business owner, your martial arts are quite strong. Why is a man with such skills running a business in Hua? Is there a law which says the strong shouldn't run businesses? Kong Moon-young shoots back, clearly irked. But it's a different story when the warrior is clearly greedy for money to the point of tricking a sect. With your level of martial arts, there are plenty of better ways to earn a fortune. Do you understand what I'm saying? Chung Myung's grin is barely contained behind his mask. Ah, that's enough, he interrupts. I get it. I get it. You aren't going to tell me anyway. There's no conspiracy, so don't misunderstand. I'm not commissioned or affiliated with anyone. This is all personal. Is that what you were going to say? Right. Thought so, Chung Myung says, nodding. Those who say such things never confess easily. Truthfully, even though your sins are great, I don't feel the need to grind you for information. Once I separate your flesh from bone, the words should spill out naturally. But if I do that, there are bound to be additional problems. Right. So, here's the deal. Chung Myung continues, growing more animated. You've already said you won't speak, so we'll make a deal. You promise to keep your mouth shut, and I promise to beat you until it opens. Kong Moon-young's eyes widen in disbelief. What nonsense? Right. Chung Myung grins. That is my specialty. Here I come. With that, Chung Myung lunges forward, closing the distance between them. Despite the clumsiness of his approach, Kong Moon-young retreats as though pursued by a horde of angry bees. Chung Myung's sword, still sheathed, targets Kong Moon-young's left knee, only to veer off and slam into his shoulder. The surprise attack leaves Kong Moon-young reeling, confused about whether he's fighting a swordsman or a prankster. Quack! Kong Moon-young gasps, his senses muddled. Chung Myung doesn't let up, swinging his sword like a sledgehammer. Kong Moon-young, now a human punching bag, tries to block the relentless blows, but each attempt is met with precision strikes to shoulder, head, and waist. He's soon retreating in terror, each hit more devastating than the last. As the fear of death claws at his mind, Kong Moon-young realizes something chilling. Chung Myung's cold, emotionless eyes are the eyes of a killer. No! Kong Moon-young pleads silently, trying to stave off the inevitable. But Chung Myung is relentless, pulling his sword from its sheath with a speed that promises a final deadly strike. Kong Moon-young's desperation manifests in a dazzling blue blast from his palms, but when the smoke clears, Chung Myung is nowhere to be seen. Tai Divine Palm Technique? Chung Myung's voice comes from behind him. Kong Moon-young's face pales. Are you from the Southern Edge Sect? He asks, the realization dawning upon him. Chung Myung's grin widens as Kong Moon-young's face contorts in horror. And with that, the episode ends, leaving us wondering how our beleaguered hero will handle the next round of this martial arts masterclass. Chung Myung's grin widens as Kong Moon-young's face contorts in horror. The realization hits him like a freight train, and Kong Moon-young's world spirals into a frantic mess of fear and confusion. So, you finally get it? Chung Myung taunts, the satisfaction clear in his voice. The Southern Edge Sect's little scheme is unraveling right in front of you. Kong Moon-young's face is a mix of disbelief and dread. He'd thought he could handle any number of masked men, but this one was in a league of his own, like a pro boxer taking on an amateur in the ring. You bastard! Kong Moon-young stammers, his voice quivering. Why are you doing this? Why? Chung Myung repeats, feigning surprise. Isn't it obvious? I'm here for a bit of fun and games, and maybe to extract a few secrets in the process. You see, there's a certain pleasure in making a grand show of things. Kong Moon-young's eyes dart around, searching for an escape that isn't there. He's been reduced to a punchline in a cosmic joke, and Chung Myung is the joker. Every move he makes, every strike he dodges, is done with an air of casual superiority that mocks Kong Moon-young's every attempt at retaliation. As the fight drags on, Kong Moon-young begins to notice something. Chung Myung isn't just avoiding him. He's practically orchestrating the fight like a conductor with a baton. Each move is deliberate, every dodge an artful dance around Kong Moon-young's increasingly futile attacks. Why are you so good at this? Kong Moon-young finally manages to gasp out. It's like you're reading my every move. Chung Myung chuckles. Oh, it's not that difficult. It's all about knowing your opponent and being a step ahead, or in your case, about being 10 steps ahead. With a final, dramatic flourish, Chung Myung draws his sword from its sheath, the blade catching the light with a menacing gleam. Kong Moon-young, now thoroughly intimidated, braces himself for the inevitable end. But before the final blow can land, Chung Myung suddenly stops, a thoughtful look on his face. You know, he muses, I really do appreciate a good challenge, but this has been more of a stroll in the park. I'd hoped for a bit more excitement. Kong Moon-young's legs tremble, his face pale as a ghost. Please, he begs, just tell me what you want. I can't take much more of this. Chung Myung, with a theatrical sigh, sheaths his sword and takes a step back. All right, you've had enough. I suppose I could spare you the final blow, but only if you give me what I need. Kong Moon-young, barely able to stand, nods vigorously. Anything. Just please stop. Excellent, Chung Myung says with a grin. Now, let's see if you can be as cooperative with your answers as you were with your fists. The episode concludes with Kong Moon-young's desperate capitulation and Chung Myung's satisfied smirk, setting the stage for more revelations and drama to come. Episode 36, a leader who is more like a beggar. Kong Moon-young quickly pulled himself together, though it felt like he was a mouse in a lion's den. Whatever do you mean? He asked, trying to sound brave. Huh? Look at this fool! Chung Myung chuckled, clearly amused. Do you think my eyes are just for show? Do I look like someone who can't recognize the Tai Divine Palm? Kong Moon-young's face turned pale. It was clear now that he was in big trouble. He regretted his rash decision to flaunt his technique. Chung Myung continued with a smirk. Quite a coincidence, huh? The same person who's been putting pressure on Mount Hua with merchants just happens to be a master of the Tai Divine Palm? Impressive. You've really nailed it. Kong Moon-young was sweating bullets. His beating was nothing compared to the realization that he had been caught red-handed. He had been reckless, flaunting his skills in front of someone from Mount Hua. "Did the Southern Edge sect send you?" Chung Myung inquired, his tone dripping with mockery. Kong Mun-young clammed up. Any explanation he gave would sound weak, so he opted to stay silent. "Ah, keeping quiet, are we?" Chung Myung said, stepping closer. "Well, loyalty is admirable, but let me correct one thing." Kong Mun-young managed to ask, curiosity getting the better of him. "Do you know what that is?" Chung Myung asked with a teasing smile. "What is it?" Kong Mun-young replied. "I won't tell you," Chung Myung said with a wink. His playful demeanor masked his seriousness. Chung Myung then grew more intense. Even back when the martial arts world was tough, it wasn't this bad. One of the 10 great sects trying to steal techniques and even an entire sect? That's quite the scheme. Very honorable, I must say. Kong Mun-young snapped. Right? Isn't that better for Mount Hua too? Huh? Chung Myung looked puzzled. You must realize Mount Hua is in shambles now. Wealth and riches are just bonuses. Mount Hua's martial arts are a shadow of their former glory. It's only a matter of time before it collapses. Kong Mun-young argued passionately. Oh? Chung Myung raised an eyebrow, interested. I was just trying to finish off Mount Hua's last breath. You should thank me. Its martial arts are already withering. Kong Mun-young pressed on. Who said that? Chung Myung's curiosity was piqued. You don't understand? Kong Mun-young replied, frustration creeping in. No. Who said Mount Hua's martial arts have withered? Chung Myung pressed. Kong Mun-young stared, realizing that Chung Myung might be more than just an ordinary disciple. In Kong Mun-young's eyes, Chung Myung was a former master of Mount Hua. You're trying to cut Mount Hua off at its weakest? Even if it's on its last legs, it still has some fight left. And you're trying to bury it while it still breathes? What kind of logic is that? Kong Mun-young challenged. Chung Myung's demeanor turned serious. You folks always justify your actions with twisted logic. I'd respect you more if you just charged Mount Hua directly and fought it out. At least then you'd be honest about your intentions. Chung Myung reminisced about the good old days when he used to provoke the Southern Edge sect just for fun. I am not a member of the Southern Edge sect, Kong Mun-young insisted. Is that so? Chung Myung raised an eyebrow. You misunderstood. The technique you saw was learned by accident. Ah, well, here's a fun fact. I'm not a member of Mount Hua either, Chung Myung said with a grin. Yes, that makes sense? Kong Mun-young muttered, trying to wrap his head around this. You? Kong Mun-young started, but couldn't finish his sentence. Chung Myung almost reacted, but managed to keep his composure. Anyway, since you've shown me that technique, I'll show you something interesting. If you recognize it, great. If not, that's a shame, Chung Myung said, his tone becoming more serious. He slowly extended his sword. His posture shifted from casual to precise, and a gentle breeze began to blow, carrying the faint scent of plum blossoms. Plum blossoms bloom brightest in the snow. Even in winter, Mount Hua's spirit is unbroken. Spring will come, and the blossoms will bloom again, Chung Myung declared, his voice filled with conviction. Kong Mun-young watched as Chung Myung's sword moved, creating a mesmerizing illusion of plum blossoms filling the sky. The petals floated gently, creating a dreamlike scene that left Kong Mun-young spellbound. The petals drifted and landed softly on Kong Mun-young's head, putting him into a trance-like state. Thud! The only sound was Kong Mun-young collapsing to the ground, unconscious. The illusion vanished as if it had never existed. Chung Myung, feeling the strain, turned away. Blood trickled from his mouth, a sign of overexertion. He put his mask back on, reflecting on his weakened state. I'm definitely feeling it, he thought. This kind of performance used to be effortless. Well, then, Chung Myung said, glancing at the merchants, who looked at him as if he were a ghost. The merchants were stunned, having never seen such a feat. It was like a legend come to life. Who wants to be beaten first? Chung Myung asked casually. Who wants to leave? Me. I will go too. Please spare us, Chung Myung nodded. Good. So cooperative. The merchants fled from their carts, but Chung Myung wasn't finished. Stop moving, he ordered. The merchants froze, fear evident on their faces. If you leave like this, what will happen to these carts? Think about it, Chung Myung said, his tone firm. The merchants exchanged glances, their frustration clear, but no one dared to challenge him. You, Chung Myung pointed at one of them. Check how much money is in your cart. Whoever finishes last will end up like him, he said, pointing to the unconscious Kong Mun-young. The merchants scrambled to check their carts, shouting amounts in a rush. 800 nyang? 2,800 nyang? It's 8,000? What? You had that much money? Is that important now? Some merchants argued, and Chung Myung frowned. Hey, he said, did you include the cost of the cart and the horse too? Recalculate, Chung Myung instructed. Yes, the merchants replied. Once recalculated, Chung Myung nodded. Then, I'll lend you the horse. One of you will go to the nearest town and get the money. I'll sell these wares to you. The merchants were taken aback. They'd never encountered someone like this. Bring the money on a non-disclosure slip. If you put anything on the slip, I'll take immediate action. Understood? Yes, they agreed, though nervously. One person will go. But what? One merchant hesitated. What if the one going escapes? Chung Myung chuckled. What good would running away do? Do you have money now? No. And your businesses have been seized? Yes. Then what good will running away do? If you want to get something, you should come back, Chung Myung said with a smirk. Then what if they report to the authorities? Try it, Chung Myung said, raising his foot and striking the ground. Thud. The ground cracked under his foot. Report it, but don't come back with them. Run as far as you can, because I will chase you to the ends of the earth. So don't think of coming back, Chung Myung warned. The merchants, realizing their predicament, decided against reporting it. Go, Chung Myung said. Yes. Mount Hua was known for its benevolence, but not everyone associated with it was as kind. By the time the sun was setting, a masked man with a hefty money slip climbed Mount Hua with a satisfied grin. The wealth earned through various means was quietly added to Mount Hua's treasury, a testament to the day's unexpected turn of events. As the masked man made his way up Mount Hua with the money slip in hand, the merchants who had been left behind were busy grappling with their defeat. Their once proud carts, now stripped of their contents, stood like empty shells, reflecting their shattered pride. The atmosphere was a mix of despair and grudging respect. The merchants, used to bending the rules to their favor, now found themselves at the mercy of a seemingly ordinary man who had just demonstrated an extraordinary skill. Chung Myung, back at the base of the mountain, was reflecting on the day's events. Despite his exhaustion and the pain that flared up with each movement, he felt a strange satisfaction. The plum blossom illusion had been taxing, but it had served its purpose. He wiped the blood from his mouth, a pained smile on his face. I suppose it's not all bad. At least we managed to put a dent in their plans and recover something for Mount Hua. His thoughts were interrupted by a commotion behind him. The remaining merchants, who had been instructed to tally their remaining funds, were still arguing among themselves, trying to make sense of their situation. Did anyone bring the non-disclosure slip? Chung Myung asked, turning his attention back to them. Yes, one of the merchants said, holding up a slip that looked like it had been hastily scribbled on. Here's the money. Chung Myung took the slip and examined it. Good. Now, let's see how much you've managed to bring together. He counted the money with meticulous care, ensuring that everything was in order. The amount was substantial, but it was a fraction of what had originally been in their carts. Not bad, Chung Myung remarked, handing the slip back. I suppose this will have to do? I'll make sure Mount Hua gets what it's owed. The merchants, exhausted and defeated, nodded in agreement. They had little choice but to comply. As night fell, the mountain was quiet once more. The merchants, now reduced to mere shadows of their former selves, began their descent, leaving behind their carts and their pride. They had learned a harsh lesson about underestimating Mount Hua and its unexpected defenders. Chung Myung, meanwhile, took a deep breath and looked out over the mountain. The moonlight cast a serene glow over the landscape, and the faint scent of plum blossoms lingered in the air, a reminder of the day's events. Well, he said to himself, we've done what we could. Time to get some rest. Tomorrow's another day. With that, he turned and headed back to his quarters, the day's victories and trials weighing heavily on his mind. He knew that Mount Hua's fight was far from over, but for now, the mountain stood a little taller, its spirit a little stronger. As he lay down to rest, he couldn't help but think of the merchants and their predicament. He hoped they would remember this day, not just as a defeat, but as a lesson in the resilience of Mount Hua and its defenders. The day had been long, but the resolve of Mount Hua remained unshaken. For every challenge faced, there was a chance to rise above, and Chungmyung was determined to make sure that Mount Hua would continue to rise, no matter the odds. Episode 37. A leader who is more like a beggar, too. Mount Hua hadn't changed much. It was still the same old place with the same relentless wind blowing through. If Mount Hua were a person, it would be like that grumpy old uncle who refuses to update his wardrobe despite everyone else moving on to new trends. But the people living there? They had changed more than a chameleon on a rainbow. Yuk! Joe Gull tossed aside his uniform, the sweat from his morning training clinging to it like a desperate ex. The moment he removed the drenched clothes, he felt like he'd shed a layer of his old, overworked self. Man, today's training was really hard. Really, it's so much to do right at dawn. His training buddies, all equally drenched and cranky, were probably dreaming of a hot bath, or at least a break from this medieval torture chamber. Joe Gull, slipping into a new uniform, packed up his laundry with the enthusiasm of someone who's just realized they've been living in a sweat lodge. Let's get going. Yes, Sayang. As the group trudged up the mountain, Joe Gull couldn't help but marvel at the change. This wasn't the Mount Hua of old, where disciples trained like they were practicing for a nap contest. Everyone was out for dawn practice now, grumbling but never outright revolting, a transformation he never thought possible. A lot has changed, he mused, as if he were a wise old sage rather than a sweat-soaked disciple. Why are you smiling like that? Yunjong, the sage of the sweat-drenched disciples, looked at him with a raised eyebrow. Ah, Sayong, it is a bit embarrassing to say, but I was thinking about how everyone seems so much like true martial artists now. Is that so? It's a bit of a strange thought, though. No, I was thinking the same. Haha, Jogo laughed, realizing his idea of martial arts was evolving faster than his laundry pile. Mount Hua was no longer just an old pile of stones and tired old monks. It was becoming something he could almost feel proud of. But his pride was short-lived as he saw what lay ahead. Hey, you shouldn't touch that. Move, move, move. We're going to push all the materials inside and then start working. Are you deaf or something? If you fall there, you won't get any pay for a month. If just the climb up here is tough, then what are you worth? Joe Gull's expression turned from philosophical to bewildered as he saw a swarm of strangers hauling tools and materials. His eyes darted around, taking in the sight of people he didn't recognize. What? Who are those people? He spotted Unam amidst the chaos, barking orders with a level of enthusiasm usually reserved for fanatical sports coaches. Sahyung? Yunjong, catching Joe Gull's confusion, walked over to Unam, his expression as blank as a piece of parchment. Sasik. Huh, Yunjong? What is all this? Oh, Unam's face lit up like he'd won the lottery. Usually he'd be the last person to explain anything, but today he was practically bursting with excitement. They're workers. Workers? Yes. You know that many of our buildings are a bit old, right? Yes. Not old. Ancient would be more accurate. The front gate's nameplate was barely hanging on, and the buildings looked ready to collapse if someone sneezed too hard. With our current opportunity, we plan on repairing the area. We'll reestablish the place. Don't just keep looking. Go and help carry the materials. It seems like all the workers are having difficulty bringing the materials up here. Most of the wood can be acquired by cutting trees nearby, but it seems they have some wood that they can't find nearby. Yes? Move fast. Move already. Hurry. Unam's commanding presence was something Joe Gull had never seen before. It was like watching a cat try to herd a flock of geese. Joe Gull's confusion only deepened when he saw the dining table. What is all this? Am I dreaming? No matter how I try to look at it, isn't this meat? The Sayungs around him shared the same disbelief. Meat was on the table, an event so rare it might as well have been a lunar eclipse. They really served us meat? To kill a living being, cook and serve it to us, sacred martial artists. What a windfall. Something must be wrong. Joe Gull chuckled, trying to suppress his amazement. Mount Hua had never been this generous with its table offerings. Meat was a treat so rare that seeing it felt like spotting a unicorn in your backyard. Can I eat this? They put it on the table so that it would be eaten. Everyone turned to Yunjong, the de facto decision maker. If the other Saiyungs were the kings, Yunzhong was their supreme ruler. Yunzhong smiled and said, "Let's eat. The food is getting cold." Yes? Zhou Gul sat down, feeling the intense gaze of his fellow Saiyungs as they focused on the meat with a hunger usually reserved for starving wolves. As Yunzhong picked up a piece of meat, chopsticks flew into the bowl like it was a treasure chest. The room erupted into a frenzy of chopsticks and clashing plates. "If I am late, I won't get any! Out of the way! My meat!" Meat! Meat! Watching the chaos, Yunzhong closed his eyes as if praying for the safety of the meat. Mount Hua was changing in ways Zhou Gul had never imagined. Well, the longer you live, the more changes you'll experience. Right. They started construction all of a sudden, and now meat is being served for our meals. We even got 2 new uniforms, right? Yes. Yunzhong looked thoughtful. Zhou Gul, ever curious, asked, "What are you thinking?" "I think that money is quite good." "Ha ha ha!" Zhou Gul laughed at the absurdity of it all. Who would have thought Yunzhong would wax philosophical about money? "No matter how much money we have, I didn't expect the seniors to change so quickly." "Did you think they would purposefully keep their disciples poor? They just couldn't help it in the past." Zhou Gul nodded, understanding that the lack of meat wasn't out of principle, but out of financial constraints. It was something that couldn't be done because of the lack of money, so they are doing it now that they have money. But isn't it weird? Zhou Gul agreed. "Didn't you see Saskunam who couldn't hide the smile on his lips?" Yes, Zhou Gul had seen it. Unam's smile was like witnessing a snowstorm in July, utterly out of place. What is certain is that Mount Hua had clearly entered a path of change. Sahyung, what do you think will happen now? It was a broad question, but Yunzhong understood. You should know it too, right? Mount Hua is changing. Yes. So we need to be prepared. Prepared. It isn't just about money. You saw it too, in that chest. Yes, there were books. Zhou Gul recalled the sect leader's almost fainting spell over some martial arts books. Mount Hua is changing. We won't be able to avoid the change, so we need to strengthen ourselves. Then won't we be able to see something different from what we originally expected? Zhou Gul nodded, contemplating the massive transformation unfolding before them. Is all of this because of him? Zhou Gul couldn't shake the suspicion that Cheng Myung's meddling was behind the rapid changes. The bad acting in front of the chest was just the tip of the iceberg. What did he do? Can we know? Even though no names were mentioned, they both knew who they were referring to. What's certain is that there's no way to predict that jerk's actions ahead of time. We need to remain alert. If we approach this with clumsy determination, we might end up being swept away in the storm he creates. Don't worry, Sahyung. I'm Zhou Gul. Right. Yunzhong smiled and headed back to the dorm, leaving Zhou Gul with a thought that maybe Cheng Myung was a force of nature even the highest of disciples couldn't predict. By the way. Huh? Where is he? I haven't seen him since this morning. Didn't you hear? The sect leader was looking for him today. He's probably at the sect leader's place. Sect leader? Why was the sect leader looking for him? How could I know? As Yunzhong shrugged, Zhou Gul sighed, resigned to the fact that understanding Cheng Myung was like trying to catch smoke with a net. I really can't understand him. Episode 37. A leader who is more like a beggar, continued. Zhou Gul and Yunzhong, their stomachs finally sated and their minds buzzing with the changes around them, made their way back to their dorm. The buzz of activity around Mount Hua was unmistakable. It was like someone had decided to turn this place from a sleepy, dusty old temple into a bustling construction site. So Sahyung, Zhou Gul began, still processing the whirlwind of the day. What do you think the sect leader wants with Cheng Myung? Yunzhong's expression grew serious. If I had to guess, the sect leader probably wants to discuss the latest upheavals with him. Cheng Myung seems to have a knack for shaking things up. Zhou Gul chuckled. More like he's shaking the very foundations of Mount Hua. I'm half expecting him to come back with a new decree that we all wear neon robes. Yunzhong laughed. As long as it's not a decree to eat meat 3 times a day. I'm not sure my stomach could handle that kind of luxury. Their laughter echoed down the corridor, a rare sound in the otherwise serious and often gloomy Mount Hua. As they approached their dorm, Joe Gould couldn't help but think about the day's events. The changes were rapid and unpredictable, like trying to guess what would happen if you mixed dynamite with fireworks. So, Sahyung, Joe Gould said as they reached the dorm, do you think these changes will be for the better? Yoon Jong, always the pragmatist, shrugged. Change is inevitable. Whether it's for the better or worse, only time will tell. But I'd say it's better to be part of the storm than to get swept away by it. Joe Gould nodded, feeling a strange sense of optimism amidst the chaos. You know, if things keep going this way, we might even see some real progress around here. Yoon Jong smirked. Or we might just end up with a whole lot of new problems. Either way, we'll need to stay on our toes. As they settled into their dorm, the familiar yet ever-changing Mount Hua felt like a new adventure waiting to unfold. Joe Gould glanced out of the window, where the setting sun painted the sky in hues of orange and pink, and thought, this place is becoming something extraordinary, and if Chung Myung has anything to do with it, we'd better buckle up. The dorm fell into a quiet routine, but Joe Gould's thoughts were anything but quiet. He was eager to see how the next chapter of Mount Hua's transformation would unfold. Would it be a smooth ascent to greatness, or would it be a roller coaster ride full of unexpected twists and turns? As he drifted off to sleep, Joe Gould had one final thought. No matter how much things change, it's always the wild cards, like Chung Myung, that make life at Mount Hua anything but ordinary. Here we are again, folks. Our boy Chung Myung is looking like he just rolled out of the underworld after an all-nighter, and not the fun kind either. And the first thing we hear... Are you all right? Yes. Cough. I am fine. Are you really fine? Really fine. Cough. You don't look it. Translation. I know you're lying, but I'm going to pretend I believe you because I don't want to deal with it. Hyunjong looked at Chung Myung as if he was staring at a walking corpse. Honestly, the kid looked like he could use a cheeseburger or 5. His face was pale. He was all skin and bones, and if you squinted hard enough, you'd probably see his soul trying to escape. How bad could his health be? Hyunjong thought to himself. Well, if we're being honest, this kid looks one ramen packet away from collapsing. What did the medical practitioner say? That he was out of chi. Yes, they said that excessive training has caused damage to his pure chi. Excessive training? Yeah, sure. Let's go with that. Chung Myung hasn't lifted a finger since he got here. This kid is the king of cutting corners. Child, you practiced until you damaged your pure chi. Why would you do such a thing? Cue Chung Myung's internal monologue. It wasn't like that, training my ass. I apologize, sect leader. I just wanted to learn the martial arts of Mount Hua as soon as possible. Smooth, real smooth. The kid isn't technically lying. He just didn't mention he's been on a permanent vacation since he arrived. Hunjong's face softened, clearly impressed. Sucker. This young one is quite good. And just like that, Chung Myung has the sect leader eating out of his palm. This kid deserves an Oscar. Right. Did you enjoy the tea? I don't really enjoy it. Ouch. He said that with the subtlety of a drunk uncle at Thanksgiving. Maybe I would enjoy alcohol. Oh, he's an alcohol guy, huh? Honestly, respect. I mean, who needs tea when you can have something that'll kick your throat and warm your soul? It is a pity you don't enjoy it, but please taste this tea. Chung Myung, of course, gulps it down like a college student chugging a beer. Who has time to enjoy the aroma? How was it? It's cold. Oof. If you listen closely, you can hear Hunjong's heart breaking just a little bit. Our boy doesn't hold back. Right. A masterful recovery from Hyunjong. Clearly, this isn't his first disappointment. He moves on quickly, probably a survival skill when dealing with Chung Myung. I have called you here to reward you for your recent achievements. Thanks to you, Mount Hua was able to get out of this crisis. You did an amazing job. A reward? Uh-oh. Chung Myung's probably thinking, do I look like I need a Starbucks gift card? I haven't done anything. How could you say that? If it weren't for you, we would have all been on the streets right now. Translation: You saved our asses, kid, and I'm willing to overlook the fact that you're a walking disaster. I just happened to walk past it and I accidentally stumbled onto that chest. Yeah, sure, just a little stumble. We all know you're practically robbing the sect blind, but go ahead, play it down. No, there is no such thing as a coincidence in this world. Everything is the result of a connection. Ah, here comes the philosophical talk. Time to buckle in, folks. Unam jumps in, praising Chung Myung for not being greedy and calling the sect leader right away. Chung Myung just nods along like the humble saint he absolutely is not. It is only natural to give a reward to the one who made this possible. Mount Hua wishes to reward you. That was why we called you. Finally, we're getting to the good stuff. Chung Myung's eyes probably lit up like a kid in a candy store. Except, well, he's already raided the store. Reward? Yes. Is there anything you want? Oh, we've hit the jackpot. You can almost hear Chung Myung mentally rubbing his hands together. How much could you even give me? Spoiler alert, probably not much, because our boy's already got a secret stash that could make a dragon jealous. Offers advanced techniques and wealth, but Chung Myung casually declines. Of course, he doesn't need it. He's already rolling in riches. Sect leader: I want to see the wide world once in a while. Please give me permission to go down the mountain whenever I want. Translation: I need a break from all this monk life and maybe hit up a bar or two. Hinjong hesitates, but eventually agrees, with the usual conditions. Don't cause trouble, stay in Huaum, yada yada. The vitality pill? Also, be sure not to neglect your training. A classic dodge. Hinjong totally glosses over the vitality pills. I can almost hear Chung Myung's internal scream. He's been hustling, and he can't even get some vitamins? As Chung Myung exits, he's fuming inside. What the hell? I'm suffering out here. That stingy old man should just give me some pills. And thus, we leave our hero more frustrated than ever, plotting how to get his hands on some vitality pills. Tune in next time to see if Chung Myung can charm his way out of this one, or if Hunjong will keep stringing him along. Either way, it's going to be a wild ride. As Chung Myung walked out of Hunjong's office, he couldn't help but feel a bit like a sucker. The man managed to give him freedom to leave the mountain, but completely sidestepped the issue of the vitality pills. I mean, how stingy do you have to be? I'm out here saving Mount Hua, looking like death warmed over, and you can't even spare a pill. Come on, old man. But alas, there was no point in whining now. He got what he needed, for the most part, and at least he had an excuse to hit the town whenever he wanted. Let's be honest here, though. That no getting into trouble clause? Yeah, that's gonna last all of 2 seconds. As Chung Myung walked back down the corridor, he spotted some of the other disciples going about their daily routines, sparring and training as usual. He watched them for a second, shaking his head. Ah, look at them, so full of hope, so full of ambition. If only they knew how much easier things would be if they just took some shortcuts like me. One of the younger disciples approached him, clearly starstruck. Senior Chung Myung, I heard you were summoned by the sect leader. What happened? Did you receive a reward? Oh boy, here comes trouble. The kid's about to see through all the layers of BS. Chung Myung scratched the back of his head, putting on his best humble face. Oh, nothing much. Just had a little chat. But surely, you must have received something. You saved Mount Hua. Everyone's talking about it. Well, that's awkward. I guess word gets around fast in a place this small. Who would have thought Mount Hua could be such a gossip mill? Shrugged. I don't do it for the rewards, you know? I'm just doing my duty as a disciple. Pfft. Yeah, right. This kid's got more schemes than a Wall Street banker. The disciple looked even more impressed now, practically starry-eyed. Wow, you're really something, senior. You must be walking the path of the Tao. Ah, yes, the Tao. The magical excuse for why you're not as greedy as the rest of us. That, or you've already got enough stashed away that you don't need to be greedy. Chung Myung waved the kid off before he got too carried away, mumbling something about how everyone should focus on their training. Smart move, Chung Myung. The last thing you need is a fan club, or maybe you do. Who knows? Maybe you could start charging them membership fees. As Chung Myung strolled off, his mind wandered back to the sect leader's office and the vitality pills that were so close, yet so far. Man, if I had just a couple of those pills, I could whip this body back into shape. Maybe sneak down to Hua, grab a drink, and take a real break. But no, the old man just had to be difficult. He smirked to himself as he walked. Well, no use crying over it. Guess I'll have to accidentally find another treasure chest soon. And so our little con artist goes back to plotting his next move, all while convincing the rest of Mount Hua that he's some kind of saint. The kid's got game, no doubt about it. And that, my dear listeners, is how we end another day in the chaotic life of Chung Myung. He's a master manipulator, a treasure hunter, and apparently the most reluctant disciple Mount Hua's ever seen. Stick around for the next episode, because with this guy, it's never boring. Episode 39, A Leader Who Is More Like a Beggar. 4. The elders of Mount Hua gather for a moment of deep contemplation, or at least that's what they tell themselves. Hunjong, Unam, and Hunsang stayed back in the sect leader's residence after the chaotic whirlwind known as Chung Myung left. You know, as one does after surviving a storm. Hunjong broke the silence first. What do you think? Unam smiled knowingly, as if they'd just solved the greatest mystery of all time. He seems to understand the path of Tao. Well, that's one way to put it. This kid doesn't follow the path. He bulldozes right through it. You felt the same? Hyunjong beamed like a proud dad whose kid just figured out how to tie his shoes. Except that kid is secretly 100 years old. The smile of relief was well earned, though. Thanks to Chung Myung, Mount Hua avoided a financial apocalypse. No invading armies or deadly martial arts battles, just straight-up debt. And, if we're being honest, losing a sect over a lack of funds is like getting evicted for too many pizza deliveries. I'm just happy we didn't lose Mount Hua because we couldn't pay our bills, Hyunjong admitted with a sigh. But this isn't about the money. Hyunjong's eyes twinkled. The boy, despite being, well, a boy, speaks with wisdom beyond his years. Wisdom beyond his years? Or just a really well-rehearsed grumpy old man in a child's body? Let's not split hairs. Unam nodded. His words are rough, but, well, kids these days, you know? But there's more to him, like an old soul hiding in there. Hyunjong agreed. Yes, it doesn't feel like talking to a child. It's like an ancient warrior. Or someone who's just really, really tired of everyone's crap, Hyunjong probably considered saying, but held back. Unam chuckled. He thinks before he speaks. That's rare in kids, or adults, if we're being honest. True. Most of us just blurt out whatever's on our minds and hope for the best. Hyunjong finally turned to Hinsang. And you? What do you think? Hinsang, who'd been contemplating in total silence like a monk trying to decipher the meaning of life, finally spoke. That child doesn't seem like a child. No kidding. Sure, rough lives can make kids grow up faster, Hinsang continued. But this is something else. He acts like a man who's lived several lifetimes. I feel like if I poke him hard enough, I'll find a hidden scroll inside. Hyunjong chuckled. Well, maybe don't poke him, but I get what you mean. Hyunsang shrugged. He's no ordinary kid. I'll leave it at that. Hyunjong nodded sagely. Well, whatever he is, he's still a child by age. We must nurture him, not use him. He's a good seed. Let's water it, not drown it. Ah, yes. The classic let's raise a child and not turn them into a weapon of mass destruction speech. A leader's favorite monologue. With the heartwarming moment of wisdom out of the way, Hyunjong shifted gears. How's the construction going? Unam grimaced. Slow, sect leader. The hills are too steep, and drying wood takes time. We can't rush it unless we invent time travel. I see. Hanjong stroked his beard. Are you displeased that I've become obsessed with money? Yes, but no one's brave enough to say it to your face, Chief. Unam shook his head. Not at all, sect leader. We understand. You're just trying to turn Mount Hua into something worthy of its history. Hunjong nodded in approval, basking in the righteousness of his cause. Good. We need a rebirth, like a phoenix rising from the ashes, if phoenixes were broke and had to take out loans. Hun Sang, however, had other concerns. He couldn't shake the nagging doubts swirling in his mind. He thought about the martial arts manuals he had been tasked with interpreting. Sect leader, I've been thinking. Oh boy, here we go. These manuals are suspiciously clean for being over 100 years old. The ink smudges. It's almost as if they were written recently. Hyunjong's brow furrowed. You think they're fake? No. They're the real deal. But who could have recreated such sacred martial arts? It doesn't make sense. If they could, why wouldn't they come forward and take all the credit? Seriously, who's hiding their genius behind an alias like, they're some kind of martial arts Batman? Hyun Sang's suspicion lingered. Something feels off, but for now, I'll keep an eye on it. Meanwhile, out in the wild, Chung Myung was dealing with his own existential crisis. Ugh, this sect is a wreck, he grumbled, kicking a stone. What the hell did they do with all the vitality pills? They can't even brew tea right. Chung Myung's frustration was boiling over. He had expected Mount Hua to be a mess, but this was next-level disaster movie material. No martial arts, no pills, no money. Just great. Couldn't screw it up more if you tried. He ranted to himself like a guy who just found out his favorite pizza place went out of business. He was injured, and his body wasn't recovering fast enough for his liking. The problem wasn't just training. It was that he was in a kid's body. You know, one that wasn't designed to handle the ridiculous martial arts shenanigans he was putting it through. I might die within half a year at this rate. Chung Myung exaggerated, though there was some truth to his dramatic flair. What he really needed was a vitality pill, something to jumpstart his recovery. But this place didn't even have those. Mount Hua used to have pills for everything. Hell, they had so many vitality pills lying around, they were practically snacks. I used to pop plum blossom pills for hangovers, Chung Myung groaned. They weren't even real pills, more like glorified vitamin gummies. But then it hit him, the pills. He suddenly remembered a stash of vitality pills that he had hidden back in the day. A wicked grin spread across his face. Sometimes it pays to be sneaky. With newfound energy, he sprinted towards the cliff where his secret stash awaited. And so, the saga of Mount Hua continues, with elders who are overthinking everything, and a 100-year-old kid who's ready to dig up his old treasures, even if those treasures were just really fancy hangover cures. Chung Myung's excitement grew as he dashed towards the cliff, fueled by the sudden hope that his secret stash of vitality pills still existed. To any onlookers, it probably looked like a kid running after the ice cream truck, but in his mind, it was a life-or-death mission. The wind whipped around him as he sped toward his destination, a grin still plastered across his face. Those idiots won't even know what they're missing, he muttered to himself. If they had any idea I was stashing pills like a squirrel stashes acorns, well, they probably wouldn't believe me anyway. Idiots. The thought of Mount Hua's elders cluelessly running around, oblivious to his stash of precious vitality pills, made him chuckle. They had no idea that Chung Myung, their sect's future troublemaker, savior, had kept an emergency supply hidden for exactly this kind of crisis. Back in my day, he mused to himself, we didn't just sit around waiting for someone to fix our problems. We made sure we had backups, even if it was just for hangovers. Meanwhile, back at the sect leader's residence, Hyunjong, Unam, and Hyun Sang continued their discussion, blissfully unaware of Chung Myung's treasure hunt. By the way, sect leader, Unam said, I've been meaning to ask about the next generation of disciples. Do you think we're ready to take them on? Hyunjong scratched his beard thoughtfully. It will depend. We're still rebuilding, but the future of Mount Hua depends on the strength and discipline of its next generation. Unam nodded. It seems we're putting a lot of faith in Chung Myung. Hyunjong smiled. We have no choice, but faith alone won't rebuild Mount Hua. We must nurture all of our disciples, not just the most promising ones. Hyun Sang chimed in. Yes, but I think we both know that Chung Myung is different. He has the potential to lead Mount Hua into a new era. Sect leader was probably thinking, Sure, as long as that new era doesn't involve more explosions or him ranting about pills every other day. The conversation shifted back to construction, rebuilding plans, and interpreting the newly acquired martial arts. But in the back of Hyun Sang's mind, the mystery of those two clean martial arts manuals still gnawed at him. Chung Myung finally reached the cliff where he had hidden his stash all those years ago. He stood at the edge, scanning the area. Now, where did I hide them? He muttered, scratching his head. The cliffside looked exactly the same as he remembered it. It was a perfect hiding spot, especially since no one in their right mind would go cliff diving just to look for some pills. He stepped carefully along the edge, recalling the exact spot. Come on, old man brain, don't fail me now. After a few minutes of searching, his eyes lit up. There. He spotted a small crevice in the rock, cleverly concealed behind some overgrown vines. Chung Myung couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. No one would have ever found this without knowing where to look. I really am a genius. He crouched down and reached into the crevice. His fingers brushed against something small and cylindrical. He grinned like a kid on Christmas morning. Carefully, he pulled out a small container wrapped in cloth. It was covered in dust and dirt, but the container itself seemed intact. With trembling hands, Chung Myung unwrapped the cloth and opened the container. Inside, he found several small, round pills. They were a little discolored from age, but otherwise, they looked just as he remembered. Yes, he shouted, pumping his fist in the air. My secret stash of vitality pills. I knew they'd still be here. Take that, world. Chung Myung still got it. He quickly popped one of the pills into his mouth. The bitter taste was familiar, but it didn't matter. Within moments, he could feel the effects starting to take hold. His chi stirred within him, and he felt a surge of energy course through his body. Ah, that's the stuff! Chung Myung sighed in relief, patting his stomach. Now, this is what I needed. The pain and fatigue that had been plaguing him for days seemed to melt away. His body felt lighter, his internal chi flowing more smoothly than it had in weeks. Looks like I've bought myself some time, he muttered to himself. At this rate, I'll be back to full strength in no time. He stood up and stretched, feeling more energized than he had in a while. Now, let's go rebuild Mount Hua the right way. Back at the sect, Hunjong, Unam, and Hyun Sang continued their discussion. Sect leader, Unam began, about the upcoming martial arts tournament. Yes, Hyunjong responded. Do you think we should send Chung Myung to represent Mount Hua? Hyunjong paused for a moment, considering the question. It's too soon. He's still recovering, and we don't want to push him too hard. Unam nodded. Of course, sect leader. I just thought, with his talent, he might be our best chance. Hyunjong smiled. Indeed, but we must be careful. Talent is nothing without discipline, and discipline is built through patience. Or, through the sheer determination of a grumpy old man in a kid's body. Episode 40, a leader who is more like a beggar. Imagine a wide, sweeping view of a massive cliff, towering so high that the top disappears into the mist. Chung Myung, our scrappy hero, stands at the base, craning his neck up so far it looks like it might just snap. Oh, he's deep in thought, folks. I can tell from his face. You ever see someone look at a problem and just think, yeah, I probably made a few bad life choices? That's Chung Myung right now. Crazy. Nailed it. He's staring at the sheer drop-off known as dangerously disconnected cliff. And no, that's not just a bad ex's nickname. It's Mount Hua's most infamous death trap. Because, why have a regular cliff when you can have a terrifyingly smooth vertical hellhole? But Chung Myung isn't scared. No, in fact, there's a smile on his lips. Because of course there is. He's probably remembering all the times he used this death-defying rock face as his personal playground. Sneaking alcohol? Check. Eating forbidden meat? You bet. Taking naps in the middle of life-threatening situations? Obviously. Chung Myung sighs, gazing up at the cliff like it's an old friend who got him arrested once. Oh, Sahyung, why did you even keep me alive? He chuckles, probably because he knows if his Sahyung were still around, he'd be getting an earful right now. Honestly, the amount of lectures Chung Myung has dodged, man, that's probably why he came here in the first place. Cue a dramatic pause as Chung Myung stretches out his neck, realizing something terrible. Was I crazy? Buddy, if you have to ask. Now, here's the thing. In his former glory days as the legendary Plum Blossom Sword Saint, Chung Myung would have scaled this cliff like it was a mild inconvenience. But in this flimsy child-sized body, he's basically screwed. Why? Why did I have to be a child? Yeah, why indeed? You're trying to do hero stuff in a body that hasn't even hit puberty yet. I mean, how's that supposed to work? He grits his teeth, looking up at the vertical wall of doom again. There's no turning back because, drumroll please, there are vitality pills in there. Damn it. Oh, so it's drugs we're after? Of course, that's the reason. They're not just any drugs, though. They're precious vitality pills, his old hangover cure. And let me tell you, when you're as reckless as Chung Myung, waking up after a night of drinking is probably like getting run over by a cart of bricks. But hey, the man has priorities. No matter how much this cliff screams death trap, he's going after his pills like they're the last beer in the fridge. Can't blame him for that. So what's the plan, Chung Myung? Cut to our boy standing on top of the cliff, armed with a rope made from vines. You know this is going to end well. He's tied it around a rock because, obviously, trusting your life to a plant is what we do here. You only live once, not twice. No, this is my second life. Technically accurate, but now's not the time for technicalities, my guy. Chung Myung peers over the edge, and for the first time in this episode, he starts to look a little nervous. Ah, fuck, I'm shaking. There it is. That moment when the cliff goes from I can do this to I'm about to die, aren't I? But like a man with no other choice, Chung Myung throws himself over the edge, screaming all the way. Now, going down a cliff sounds simple in theory, but in practice, it's like one of those amusement park rides where you're not sure if you're going to have fun or meet the Grim Reaper halfway down. And of course, it doesn't take long for things to go sideways. Enter crumbling rocks. Whoa! You ever just watch a piece of your footing disappear beneath you and think, well, this is it? That's where Chung Myung's at right now, watching the stone fall and fall and fall some more. Shit. Yup, this is the kind of situation where you wish you'd learned some safety precautions. Like, I don't know, acrobatics or not trusting vines to save your life? Fast forward a bit. Chung Myung's hanging off the rope, flailing around like a fish out of water. He's swinging and kicking and oh, what's that? The rope's fraying. Fantastic. No, Chung Myung. Don't do this. Don't look up. You know exactly what's happening. No! In one of those classic, what did you expect moments, the rope snaps and our brave hero plummets like a sack of potatoes. Arms flailing, legs kicking, he looks like a cartoon character falling off a cliff. Except this isn't funny. Okay, it's kind of funny. Then, bam! He hits the ground, dust flying everywhere. A moment of silence. And then, amidst the chaos of dust and pain, I am alive. How did he survive that? Don't ask me. Don't ask him. He's not even sure himself, but here he is, barely holding it together as he glares at the cliff that just tried to murder him. I will climb you no matter what means I have to use, you damn disgusting cliff. Oh, we love a determined man. Or is it stubborn? Either way, stay tuned, folks, because Chung Myung isn't done with this suicidal mountaineering just yet. And there you have it. Chung Myung versus the cliff. A tale of determination, bad life choices, and very questionable safety measures. So, after surviving his crash landing, Chung Myung's standing at the base of the cliff, a little worse for wear, but still alive. Barely. His whole body feels like it's been run over by an ox cart, but hey, when has that ever stopped him? Quack! He lets out a groan that could curdle milk as he tries to get up. He's a mess, aching, bruised, and probably questioning every decision that led him to this point. But what does he do? He pulls himself to his feet with a death glare aimed straight at the cliff. I will climb you no matter what means I have to use, you damn disgusting cliff. Now, you might be thinking, hey, Chung Myung, maybe you should take a break. You know, rest those broken bones? But no, this is Chung Myung we're talking about. And if there's one thing he hates more than giving up, it's letting a hunk of rock get the best of him. He clenches his fists, feeling the rage burning through his veins. You can almost hear him thinking, I will conquer you, Cliff, just like I conquered that all-you-can-drink tavern challenge last year. Fast forward a bit, and there's Chung Myung again. this time standing at the base of the cliff for round 2. Now, you'd think after a near-death experience, he'd come up with a smarter plan, but nope. He's got the same rope, tied to the same rock, and the same look of reckless determination on his face. All right, you bastard, let's do this. He grips the rope like it's the throat of an old enemy, and once again, he hurls himself over the edge, ready to tackle the cliff that almost killed him. The climb down is going, well, not exactly smoothly. Imagine trying to fight a wild animal while hanging from a piece of string. Now add a 1,000-foot drop and some questionable rope craftsmanship into the mix. Ah, damn it. Why didn't I become a monk instead? Should have shaved my head, sat in peace, and had some tea. Because clearly, if he had, he wouldn't be stuck dangling from a vine rope right now, screaming at the cliff like it owes him money. But even with the constant slipping, the crumbling rocks, and the sheer terror of falling to his death again, Chung Myung presses on. Every nerve in his body is screaming, but he can see his goal, the small cave where his stash of vitality pills lies waiting. Salvation is just a few feet away. Almost there! And then it happens. A small crack echoes through the air, and Chung Myung feels the rope tug sharply. His blood runs cold. Oh no, not again. He looks up. The rope is fraying. Again. No, this can't be happening. Not when he's this close. But the universe has other plans. The rope snaps with a sharp crack, and Chung Myung is once again falling through the air, limbs flailing like a cat that just got thrown into a bath. And then, wham! He smashes into the side of the cliff. It's a miracle he doesn't turn into a pancake right then and there, but instead, he manages to grab hold of a ledge with his one good hand. His whole body is trembling, but he's hanging on for dear life. Why? Why is this happening to me? I was a sword saint, a hero. I killed the heavenly demon, damn it! But no one's listening, least of all the cliff. It's just sitting there, smug as ever, waiting for him to slip. With every ounce of strength he's got left, Chung Myung pulls himself up and over the ledge. His chest is heaving, his muscles are screaming, but he's alive. Barely. And as he lays there staring up at the sky, the realization hits him. I'm a fucking idiot. Truer words have never been spoken. But guess what? After all of this, Chung Myung isn't giving up. Nope. He drags his battered, bruised body up one last time, and he's not stopping until he gets to that damn cave. Because if there's one thing you should know about Chung Myung, it's that he's as stubborn as a mule. As he pulls himself towards the opening, he lets out a triumphant shout. Finally! The Plum Blossom Sword Saint conquers the cliff. And then he slips into the cave, where his precious pills are waiting for him like a prize at the end of the world's most idiotic game show. Inside, Chung Myung slumps against the wall, breathing heavily. He rummages through the hidden stash, pulling out the vitality pills. His hands are shaking, but he doesn't care. He pops one of the pills into his mouth, sighing as he feels the energy slowly returning to his body. Ah, that's the stuff. He leans back, grinning to himself. Sure, he nearly died twice, but it was worth it. Kind of. And that, my friends, is the tale of Chung Myung versus the cliff. A man who probably should have rethought his life choices about 10 cliffs ago, but decided to roll with it anyway. Stay tuned for the next episode, where he'll probably find an even more dangerous way to almost kill himself. Because what's life without a little thrill, right?